Hey guys, welcome back for another episode of HOTDROP. I'm your host Dano, and I'm on the road today. I'm actually headed home for a July 4th holiday and figured, what the hell, let's fire up the old podcast machine and talk some Battlegrounds. This episode I want to talk about some of the strats that I like to use, some of the loadouts that I like to use, and just general tips about where to drop early game and how to get your game started off on the right foot. First off, I want to cover some of the loadouts that I like. So, as a CSGO player, I used to do a lot of opping, which is sniping. So I got pretty good at that gun, and this translates pretty well to Battlegrounds. So, aside from an assault rifle, I really go towards the Kar 98 or any crate drops that I can get that have sniper rifles in them. I found that a Kar 98 with an 8X is really good, obviously. If you can find a 4X, that's also pretty decent to have on the Kar 98 because you're really looking for those headshots. I'm pretty sure that Kar 98 can headshot a level 2 helmet and totally drop a guy, so that's usually what my go-to as far as a primary. Secondary, I like using the assault rifles. The M4 is my favorite, the M416, if you will. We usually refer to it as the M4 just because it's a lot easier to distinguish between saying M416 or M16 because they're so easily interchangeable. So the M4 is the one I like to go towards the most, followed by the Scar. I like having the full auto capabilities of the assault rifles, so the AK is also nice, but it's a little bit more difficult to control. Whereas the Scar and the M4 seem to have a little bit less of a recoil, and I like those a little more. I also like the fact that those guns can take a lot of attachments, so all of the vertical grips, the horizontal grips, the barrel mods, the mags, the extended the tack stock, all of those things I like to find because I really feel that it might be a placebo, but I really do enjoy the fact that I can put a lot of different mods on those weapons versus like the M16 and the AK, which don't take a grip mod. Aside from those, if I can't find an assault rifle, or I can't find a sniper, I usually go with SMGs. I found the Uzi to be really difficult to use. It seems like it has a very erratic spray pattern, and it's also very difficult to use at anything beyond close range, especially if you go full auto on it. Single fire is okay, but the amount of damage it outputs almost makes more sense to just use a pistol. The pistols are a lot more accurate than the Uzi I found, and if you're up close, you can spray a guy, but if you're anywhere beyond, 10 meters away, the auto fire on the Uzi basically becomes unusable. This is just my experience, and I just tend to shy away from it. You guys might have a better experience with the Uzi than me, but typically I try to avoid it. I really like the UMP. The UMP is usually my go-to SMG if I can't find a vector. The UMP is really good in single fire and in auto fire because of the very little recoil it has, and because the damage drop-off doesn't seem to be that big. Extended mags are really good to have on Uzis. It only gives you an extra 10 rounds, but on the Vector, the extended mag is pretty much a must-have. If I find a Vector during the game, I'm going to pick it up immediately. Whatever sidearm I have or whatever secondary I have will be swapped out with the Vector because I think that gun is just that good. Having an assault rifle or a sniper rifle plus a Vector gives you a really good combination of long range and short range. If you switch the Vector over to single fire, or if you switch it over to auto, it basically shreds guys up close. It's absolutely ridiculous how fast that thing shoots, and it still has nearly the same amount of power as the UMP does. I'm a really big fan of the Vector. The fact that it takes a lot of attachments is really cool as well. And I would say, for me personally, my play style fits the Vector better than a shotgun. However, on the other hand, sometimes I do like to go for the shotgun. The shotgun is extremely deadly up close, as you guys know, and it's actually extremely deadly for mid-range too if you can find a choke for it. The over-under, I think, is the best shotgun to take because of the rapid fire capability, so you can really shoot one shot and then fire up a second shot immediately. It's basically almost like shooting 2 shots simultaneously. Putting a choke on the over-under makes it really effective even at medium ranges, like I just said. I have a clip actually of Lemon John getting hit by a choked over-under, and it was probably from a distance of about 30 meters away, and it dealt about 80 damage. It was just amazing how much damage he took just from one hit. The shotguns are really underrated in this game, I think. If you come into this game as a beginner, there's a very good chance that you would just expect the shotguns to just only be effective from a very short range. But the reality is that these shotguns are effective the entire game. They're totally viable to pick up at all stages of the game, even at the end when the gas is closing in and you need to switch to a short-range weapon. Basically, the long story short is don't count the shotguns out. I would absolutely go for them if you can find an auto shotty. Those are really effective. This is the S12K. An extended mag with that one holds 8 rounds, and you can fire those off really quickly, and it's really effective for clearing out houses and behind trees and stuff like that when you're rushing people down at the end of the game. The pump shotgun I have a personal grudge against. There's been a bug with this gun for a very long time, which is that when you reload it, sometimes the character needs to pump the shotgun before you can fire it, which has gotten me killed multiple times, and also members of my squad have died to this bug. They would load the shotgun and go to shoot someone, and in fact it would pump before the shot goes off, so they would miss their shot because nothing would come out, and then they would get killed. So I personally don't pick up the pump shotgun if I can help it, and I would gravitate towards the over-under or the auto shotgun if possible. So those are my preferred loadouts. Like I said, it would be M4 and UMP, or M4 Vector, or M4 and sniper rifle. Those would be my top go-tos. As far as the pistols go, I really covered this pretty well in the last episode where I talked about the new Glock. That weapon is ridiculously awesome. I love it. It's an excellent sidearm to have, especially because you have that full auto 25 round extended mag on that thing, and the attachments are just a lot easier to find than the other SMG and AR attachments. So that gun is excellent. I'm really happy to see that they are giving more attention to pistols and also enabled them to be pulled out faster. So what are the things I like to do at the beginning of the game? So I like to drop down at a couple areas, and I want to highlight a few of those things. The first would be a very little known town called Zarki. This is at the top corner of the map, the northwest corner, and is an excellent place to drop, especially in duos. It's not quite as good in squads, but it's excellent in duos because not a lot of people go there, and you basically have full reign of the entire town. There's enough houses there to get a duo and pretty close to a squad fully loaded just by hitting that one town. You have to get lucky with the plane path. I wouldn't recommend it if the plane actually starts in the northwest corner of the map, because this means that a lot of people are going to hot drop at Zarki, which is not what you want to see. There's not enough loot really to hot drop there, but there's a lot of loot, or there's enough loot to drop, get a car and go there, or drop and fly very far away from the plane and go there. So I would definitely recommend Zarki as a stop you can make if you want something that's a little lower risk while at the same time offering some decent loot for duos. Other hotspots, I think, are the military tunnels. These used to be a very well-kept secret in this game, but now a lot of people are dropping there because a lot of people now know about this really good spot to loot. The military tunnels are a good choice if you have a duo. For a squad, you probably are not going to get enough loot for all 4 of you, but you can run from the houses from here. There's a housing complex nearby, and then there's also the warehouse nearby. It's a very large single warehouse in the middle of a field nearby that has some good loot for probably if you can hit all of these spots and come out on top of any battles that you might encounter, you're probably going to end up decently loaded at this point. I would not recommend the crater, which is nearby. That's that big circle on the map with about 6 warehouses. That one is going to be too dangerous. Too many people drop there, just like the school, and you're probably not going to win those early fights. If you get lucky and you do win the early fights, it's a high-risk, high-reward situation where you're going to find a lot of good stuff early, but again, the chances of getting out of there alive with all 4 of your squad mates is pretty slim. One more place that I like to drop is the town called Novo. We're shortening it. I'm shortening the name of it because I don't actually know the full name. It's like Novo Ripnoye or something like that. This is the town that's at the southeast corner of the map on the military base island. It's pretty popular because there are those shipping crates. There's a lot of really good loot on top of those crates. I would recommend dropping at the houses and moving in from there after you've looted up. But this is a really good place to go if you want really good loot early. The big downside here is that you have to cross the bridge at the military base island. You're going to run into a lot of trouble there, and it's going to be very difficult to cross that bridge. You basically know as soon as you come up to that bridge that there's going to be people camping on it. People either camp in the middle among the turned over cars there, or they camp on the ends on either side of the end of the bridge, usually on the inland part of it. On the other hand, bridge fights are really fun. I really enjoy getting in battles on the bridge because you know there's people ahead of you and you can easily get pinched from behind you, so it makes for some pretty intense moments when you're battling people on the bridge and someone comes up behind you and joins your fight. If you're looking to get into action, you can also camp the bridge yourself. This is a total viable strategy. It really pisses me off when people camp the bridge, but honestly, it's a lot of fun to do that because you know that people are coming to cross that bridge. Every game, people jump and land on the spawn or on the military base island, so you're guaranteed a fight when they come rumbling down in their cars to try to cross that bridge. A quick strategy that you can use on the bridge, I would say, would be smoke grenades. I have a big pet peeve with the grenades right now for a couple reasons. The first is that they're very slow to throw. It takes you forever to pull out a grenade and throw it. But even worse than that is the fact that grenades are entirely client-side. And if you're not too familiar with what that means, I can explain what that means. So basically, it's that when you throw the grenade, the direction that the smoke comes out of the grenade is determined by your machine, your client, and the server just randomly generates basically what that smoke will do. I might not be completely correct on this, but I know that the results is that when you throw a grenade, the smoke might bloom to the left, but other people might see it bloom to the right, or straight up, or down. And the problem with this is that you think you might be in cover because on your screen the smoke is obstructing your view, but other people might see the smoke coming out from another direction and can completely see you. So there's a lot of randomness with smokes right now, and they really need to fix this. If you have ever played CSGO, you know that when you throw a grenade, the smoke always blooms in the same circular pattern every single time, and it looks exactly the same for everyone who looks at that smoke. They really need to implement this in Battlegrounds too, because right now there's too much of a randomness element to the grenades, specifically the smoke grenades. But again, the bridge is very small, so you definitely could employ smoke grenades to try to cover yourself and get out, or just cover your approach. They do something. It's better than nothing. It's better than going in dry, but at the same time, it's very difficult to know exactly what that smoke is going to look like for everyone else around it. It's, in fact, impossible to know what that smoke will do. Another hot drop that I like a lot that our squad constantly does is Meal to Power. There are two good spots at Meal to Power to drop at, the small power plant and the big power plant. The big power plant is that area with a big smokestack. It looks like a nuclear reactor smokestack at the east side, lower east side of the map. And this has some really good loot. If you can coordinate pretty well and get all of your squad to drop on the roof, there's usually 2 or 3 weapons up there that you can grab and work your way down to the lower parts of the power plant and take out any remaining people that are there. Usually 2 squads at the very least usually jump there per game. So if you and 1 other squad or you and 2 other squads typically are going to fall there, and it's going to make for a good battle at the beginning. But if you're successful and you win that opening battle, you get full reign of the big power plant and usually the small power plant as well. The small power plant, I think, is a total hidden gem on the map, and not a lot of people go there. There's some really good loot. It's really spread out. It's kind of difficult to see because the interior of the plant is very dark, but there's some really good stuff there. And if you can land on the roof and work your way down, there's a very good chance that 2 or 3 of you are going to leave with enough loot to at least take another fight as you move around the map and make your next move. One of the things to be aware of at the big power plant are those tents out front. They're like small, just covered, they look like party tents sort of in front of the big building. Those have some really good loot in them. In addition, there are those small sheds that are sort of scattered around that area, and those have some great loot as well. So it's always a good idea to make sure you check those perimeter loot spots to make sure that you don't miss anything on the way out. At small power, there's actually it's like a crate that is sort of leaning against another crate, and almost every time I walk up there, inside that top crate on that stack is something good, like an assault rifle or a level 2 bag or a level 2 vest. So just something to keep in mind is that you always want to be able to grab all the loot that you can and not leave any stone unturned at these loot spots, because it seems that things are really spawning everywhere, and I wish I had some better ideas on like how exactly the loot spawns and how the tables are distributed, like where the good loot spawns versus the level 1 loot, etc. But it seems like the power plants especially have some really good stuff, whereas towns like Zarki, like I mentioned, have lower tier loot. But until we have a little more data mining happening and more information drawn out of the game files, we won't really know exactly how the loot is distributed. As far as other places to drop, I would say the school and the military base are very good to drop at if you're new to the game. And this seems kind of stupid to say because you're probably gonna get destroyed there. But I think it's a really good place to drop because there's gonna be action every single time you go. And the problem right now is that you cannot train in any way in this game. There's no way to jump into a training course or shoot against bots or really play with the weapons at all. When you're new to the game, you want to get better at it, and the only way to get better at it is just jump into those hot zones. At the top of my wish list for this game right now is a training mode. I really hope they put in like a weapons course or just an area where you can practice shooting sniper rifles from distances or just playing against bots. The custom game modes that they have now, or that they are starting to implement now, will probably make something like this happen sooner than later, but it's really at the top of my list as far as learning the bullet drops, learning how the different spray patterns work. All this stuff you can't really do in the game right now because the only time to use a gun is to shoot someone with it when you're under fire, so it's difficult to learn as you go, and I would really like to see an offline mode where you can safely practice with all the weapons. One thing to mention is that when you're jumping at a town or a city or anywhere, use your markers. Use those colored markers by opening up your map and right-clicking on the location that you want to mark. Not just in a vague way. So think about it when you're in the plane and you're flying overhead and people say, oh, where are we going this time? Put your marker exactly where you want your teammates to go. Use your scroll wheel, zoom in on the map, and drop the marker on a building that you want your squad to land at. So many times I've dropped with my squad just by saying, hey, let's go to Primorsk, and we're all spread out, and one of us gets killed, and then all 4 of us, or the remaining 3 of us, try to run towards that person to help them, and they die, and then we just get into a fight and die because we're not set up and not positioned in such a way that we could back each other up. So really use those markers and really zoom into the map, like I said, and put that marker exactly where you want people to go. Talk about this as the plane is flying overhead. There's a little bit of time before you are allowed to jump as the plane, comes into the playable area. And use this time wisely. Don't just sit there and be silent and say, okay, where are we going? Really say, okay, let's land at Primorsk, let's land on this side of the road, I'll take the southwest corner. If we're going to the military tunnels, for example, I'm going to enter in the north corner, so all of you guys should follow me and back me up. Really communicate and really make sure that your squad knows exactly what to do as they're parachuting down and before they even hit the ground. A quick note on meds and boost items. So boost items are the painkillers and energy drinks, the things that will take you from 75% up to 100, or in the case of an energy drink, about to 95% of your full health. At the beginning of the game, you find a lot of bandages. They spawn a lot more common than first aid kits and definitely med kits. Bandages are good to have at the beginning of the game if that's all you can get, but once you have a first aid kit, it's good to drop the bandages because they take up a lot of inventory space, and you want to use that space in favor of an item that's going to heal you a lot more and a lot faster. You generally want to have about 2 to 3 boost items at the minimum, and about 2 or 3 first aid kits also at the minimum at any given time. So this seems like a lot, but if you think about it, you take about 5, 6, maybe 7 fights a game, depending on your playstyle, and every time you get hit, you cannot heal back up to the full 100% unless you have a boost item. So the energy drink, like I said, is going to get you about to 95%, and the painkillers are going to take you up to 100 and even beyond. Sometimes when I know I'm about to take a fight, I will take an energy drink or take a painkiller because I know that I'm going to start taking damage, and having the item already equipped and active will cause it to continuously heal me as I'm taking fire. And this could be the difference between life or death. If you think about it, if I take a shot that's going to take out nearly my entire health, but the painkiller activates at just the right time, it could save my life. So it's always good to have some kind of boost item active if you know you're about to get hot. One more quick side note about inventory management at the beginning of the game. Some people might not know this, but the vests actually give you additional inventory space. This is in addition to that pack that you wear on your leg, and the word is completely escaping me, but it's an equipable item in your character screen at the main menu. This gives you additional inventory space as well, so don't drop this. Don't run around naked, or don't drop this side pouch, because you can get additional inventory space out of it, and you can hold more items before you find a backpack. The next quick tip I wanted to mention is about ammunition. You don't need 300 rounds, 400 rounds at any given time in this game. It's crazy to hold that much. More ammo is better, but up to a certain point. You only really need about 150 rounds at any given time because of the fact that you're going to get into a fight and very likely take that dead person's ammo. Personally, I feel comfortable picking fights when I have about 150 rounds total. Just because you can carry that much ammo doesn't really mean you need to, or it doesn't mean you need to go and actively seek it out. If you're using a sniper rifle, for example, 100 rounds in reserve is plenty for the entire game. You're not going to shoot more than 150 rounds with a sniper rifle in one single game. So if you decide that you're using an AK and you switch over to a Kar 98, for example, you might have 250 rounds of 7.62, but you don't need 250 rounds of 7.62 to use for your sniper rifle. When you switch over, give some of those rounds to your teammates. If you're in squads, ask if anyone needs that extra ammo and give it to them who's using an AR, because you will go through ammo a lot faster when you're using an automatic weapon. I run sniper a lot, and I don't think I've ever used more than 100 rounds in any single game through a sniper rifle. SMGs like the Vector are a little bit different story. I would feel comfortable having 200 rounds plus with the Vector because it shoots so quickly. But other than that, I think anything more than 150 rounds for any of the other guns is plenty to have when you're about to take a fight. One more quick early game tip that I can give you is go for airdrops early. If you see a plane and you're on the plane path, follow it. A lot of people don't go for the drops very early, and if you do, you're probably not going to find a lot of people to contest it. This is a really good way to get a great weapon early game and get a one-up on people. One more last thing I wanted to mention when you're looting. So when you find helmets, if you find a level 2 helmet and it only has maybe 50% health left on it, take it anyway. Even if there's just a sliver of health remaining on that helmet, it will stop the first bullet it takes with the full damage decrease multiplier. I think it's something like 50% decrease for a level 3 helmet, or 30% for a level 2, or 20% for a level 1. My numbers might be wrong here, but it's something like that. So that's a big difference between a level 1 and a level 3. If you can find that level 3 and you can take one hit from it and you survive, if you think about it, like if you take a sniper round to the helmet of a level 3, you'll live, versus if you took that level 1 helmet and it doesn't actually protect you from the bullet that it needs to stop. But this is just something to be aware of. If you're taking fights and you're taking damage, you want to make sure you pay attention to the health status of your gear in order to swap it out if you need to. So I am just about near my destination now, and I hope you enjoyed me totally rambling for about 30 minutes on Battlegrounds. This was a very interesting episode, I have to say. I was just like, you know what, screw it. I'm just sitting in my car and thinking about playing Battlegrounds, and why not talk about it? Why not do a podcast episode? So I'll throw this up on YouTube and SoundCloud, and let me know what you think. This was completely off the cuff. If it's terrible, I wouldn't be offended because you could probably not even hear me too well. But I just thought it would be interesting and fun to do on the road. So who knows? Maybe you'll have another episode like this in the future. So yeah, thanks for sticking with me, and I'll see you in game.